Hello, everyone, and welcome to the newest episode of Limited Time Only. I am your host, Mason Clark, and I am joined by the top 3 Silver Pros in Utah, Danny Cathro. Danny, how you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. I feel like we're kind of stretching more and more on the intro about who I am, but I like it. Top 3 Silver Pros is definitely factual, so that's good.
How about this? We'll redo it live. I'm joined by GP Indianapolis teammate Danny Cathro.
Teammate also, the facts.
Yeah.
I mean, our buddies did qualify for the Pro Tour at that tournament, so that's cool.
Yeah. Some local players from my area qualified. That was awesome. Mm-hmm. They 0-3 day 1, and then they went back and built like 2 sealed pools, and they were talking to Danny a bunch because me and Trey just drove home after we did day 2, and then they won it. It's awesome.
Yeah, they won the PTQ on Sunday, so that was pretty sweet.
Yep.
We did not win any tournament that weekend, but you know it happens. So.
Yeah, it happens. Our pools were pretty average for like normal sealed, and then Danny never won a game.
I think I went like even or something.
Yeah, no, I think you and Trey both went like 5-4, but like all the losses that we had would be like at the same time or something like that. So that happens. Whatever. It's been a while. Sorry about that. Spencer's sick. I was super sick this whole week, so we're recording the episode late into the week, and it's gonna be a fun one. So we're going to move on, and we're going to go straight into the training grounds because this week we're going to be talking about commons. So normally we do a common set review, but the Pro Tour just happened the last couple of days, and instead we're going to talk about some of our first impressions from commons. So we're going to go over all that stuff. So we're going to go over biggest movers, cards we like, the colors, and all that. It's just going to be the training grounds today. And luckily for us, we are sponsored by 2 great stores, so we get to do that, Game Grid and the Nanobase. I totally didn't forget about them. They are awesome stores. If you're in Utah and you want to draft, go to Game Grid. It's awesome. You can play against Silver Pro Danny Cathro there. And if you want to go to the Mana Base, you know, you can get lots of limited product there. They do sealed boxes, something that Oasis and Game Grids, the other 2 sponsors of CC Media, do not do. So, boom, you can get prices there. Have them go to you and get Nikachu. Danny's laughing because I forgot about them for a second, but it's fine.
You remembered. It happened. I don't understand how you would ever consider that having forgotten. So.
Exactly. I would never forget the amazing sponsors, just like they would never forget your order. So let's hop right into it, Danny. So what do you think about Rivals of Ixalan? Because it's been a little bit since we've had an episode. We've been able to draft a bunch, play a bunch. What do you think?
So far I've really liked the format a lot. Definitely seems like the archetypes are more balanced than they were in the last set, and I think like overall, it's a fun set. I think like the gameplay's good, the drafts are interesting. I think you're really rewarded for staying open, and you can 3-0 a draft with whichever archetype comes your way. So I definitely think it's a really sweet set so far.
Yeah, I definitely like it more than what I've seen of Ixalan. I didn't get to play a whole lot of Ixalan, but it's pretty good. I will say that I haven't played a whole lot since the GP because I've been focusing on GP Memphis. But it really did feel like you needed to have a lot of 2-drops, and that if you don't have a lot of 2-drops, you're going to have a hard time. Danny, do you feel like that's the case? I didn't get to see any of the limited Pro Tour because of the terrible hours for us, but is that how things have played out? I've seen a lot of tweets about the Draw 3 Ascend card and stuff like that. So
yeah, I think you have to do something, right? Like, but the nice part is that you have like a lot of options. Like, I think a lot of the colors have multiple playable 1 and 2 drops, and there's not like One with the Wind is a pretty it's a card that makes it so that if your opponent plays a 2-drop and then you play a 2-drop, but then they play with a 1 with the Wind, it's like you might as well not have played a 2-drop. So you don't get that as often in this set. So as long as you draft a curve as like if you prioritize that as you draft, then you normally don't get too punished. And so I think you have more options to interact in this set, which is nice.
Yeah, that is true. That's for sure. So you wanted to talk about the Ascend mechanic, Danny. What was one of the things you wanted to talk about with that?
Yeah, so I think anytime there's a new mechanic, it takes a little bit to try to figure out exactly how it's going to play out and like the strength of it. And so I think overall Ascend has overperformed. I think the cards that have Ascend, you can assume that you'll get to a point in the game where you can play them with Ascend more often than I initially thought, I guess is
Mm-hmm.
what I was going for there. But and so there's like certain commons that I had undervalued initially, and then as I've played with the sim mechanic more, I can start to value them higher and higher because they work out a lot. So like the first one that I thought of was Stubborn Sentry. That's the white O3 dinosaur that has Ascend. That as long as you have the City's Blessing, it's a 3/3 instead of no 3. And that card it's not as bad as it initially appeared. So it looks a lot like Kinjali's Collar from Ixalan, where it was an O3 that made all your dinosaurs cost 1 less. Whereas I thought it would just be worse than that card because it's an O3
that sometimes becomes a 3/3.
Exactly. Whereas that one, at least, like your best draws could start off with the Kinjali's Collar because let you like ramp out something. But the Stubborn Sentry is actually overperformed. Like it's very often a 3/3. A 3/3 body in this format is pretty relevant. Like there's not a lot of big things, and so it can attack and block really well, and it powers up your other Ascend cards because it's a cheap permanent that you can get onto the battlefield. And
it does a good job of ramming towards it.
Exactly. And so I think that like just kind of going back and reevaluating all the cards with the Ascend is really, really important in the set because the games aren't as fast as they were in Ixalan. They're not as decided based on auras and bomby cards. I mean, it occasionally happens, but a lot of the games grind out, and then all of the Ascend cards become so much more powerful if you're planning on the games going to like turn 10 or at least 8 or 9. So.
Yeah, so it's cards like Dusk Legion Zealot go up in value with that too, right? Just a 2-drop that you can play on the board. It replaces itself, helps you in those, kind of like we talked about how the games are going a little bit longer. They are grinding more, and just having a body that replaces itself and work towards the Ascend mechanic is pretty cool there.
Yep. I actually saw something really interesting. So I was going through some of the 3/0 deck lists, and one of the things that I saw was just a straight 2-color deck was playing Traveler's Amulet instead of a 17th land, and it was in an Ascend deck. And so if you think you're getting some marginal benefit by fixing your mana at the cost of being slower, but also Traveler's Amulet can kind of turn on Ascend one turn faster because it's like a land.
The PT, right?
Yeah,
okay.
the PT.
Okay, yeah, continue. Sorry.
And so, because if you play Traveler's Amulet as your 17th land, if you get a little flooded, but you might have a Dust Charger, a Stubborn Sentry, you can get Ascend one turn quicker if your last land in your deck is a Traveler's Amulet, because it can be an extra permanent that you put onto the battlefield. So I thought that was kind of an interesting, like little interaction with Ascend and just your mana base. But
yep, makes a lot of sense. Yeah, it's definitely one of those things that is weird and interesting when you play with new mechanics, and they force you to do weird things, right? Like normally you might play Traveler's Amulet like for the splash in a 2-color deck, but you'd be like you're just like, oh, well, there's no real reason, and you just play another land. And now with this, it's like, well, I kind of get the land still, but it comes out earlier for Ascend, which is crazy. So
yeah, and so it can be that tiebreaker where it normally isn't worth it to have the slowness of that. Of the Traveler's Amulet being your 17th land, but if you have a bunch of Ascend cards, then it can be like the deal breaker to make it worth it playing that over the 17th land, which is interesting. You also mentioned like another Ascend card that's overperformed, which is Secrets of the Golden City. That it's the 1 blue sorcery that you draw 2 cards, but if you have the City's Blessing, you draw 3 cards. And that card has ran away with some games in my experience. Like you get into the late game, and if you top deck a Secrets of the Golden City, it's like that's quite a bit of gas for your common to give you. And so
what kind of decks are you seeing that in? Like, what is the archetype that really wants that?
Sailor of Means decks are probably the main one. That's another card that's gone up that kind of it's in both sets, and so you get to see it in all the packs that you open. And Sailor of Means is great for Ascend. You get a treasure and a 1/4 body, which is good at blocking and dragging the game out. And then if you build it with like Secrets of the Golden City as like a common, pretty good win condition, then you can ramp up to Ascend and then refill your hand and just kind of grind out the game that way.
Interesting. So what do you think about... Sorry to interrupt you there. So what do you think about there's this notion that like Ixalan doesn't like blocking, right? Like on Rivals, you just don't block. But when we talk about, this Ascend mechanic and the Blessing of the Golden City, or I'm sorry, whatever the blue card's called, we're talking about
Hmm.
having the games go long and grindy. Do you think that was just an overreaction and some past bad memories from Ixalan, or do you think this format is pretty aggressive?
I mean, there's definitely aggressive cards. So I think two of the most notable commons that people were talking about when they thought the format would be super aggressive are the 2 drops and blue and red. So Kitesail Corsair is the 2/1 human pirate that when it's attacking it has flying, and
Mm-hmm.
then the red Goblin Trailblazers, the 2/1 menace Goblin Pirate, and those are both sorry, really aggressively slanted um, 2 drops, which are harder to block. And so, if you get a deck with a bunch of those, that can be definitely an issue, and you can get ran over. But I don't think from my experience, not all the games have played out like that.
Mm-hmm.
There's lots of good removal, so you have ways to kind of interact with it. And like cheaper removal, which is really nice. Like Luminous Bonds as a 3 mana removal spell has been nice. So you can't get you don't get blown out by auras as much. And Bombard as an instant speed removal spell is really good against One with the Wind or Mark of the Vampire, those types of effects. And so there's more. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry, we're still sick, by the way. We did the episode because we needed to do an episode, and it's been about 2 weeks and everything, and it's going to be
Mm-hmm.
getting rougher coming up because Danny and I are both playing a GP. What's it called? In 2 weeks or something like that.
Memphis? Yeah, I think it's like the third week of February. So yeah, I guess
Yeah,
like 2 weekends, three
yeah, two
weekends, like
two
that.
weekends from now. Yeah, so we're gonna have busy times and all that good stuff. So we want to make sure we get the episode in, and I did a good job of just pausing so Danny could cough, and let's get back into it. So what were you saying there, Danny?
Yeah, no, I was just saying like there's definitely some aggressive 2 drops, but the way that the format's played out, and especially the 3-0 lists from the drafters that went 6-0,
Hmm.
most of their decks were not aggressive. Most of them, I'd probably say the most prevalent deck was black, white, ascend, grindy cards, and then there was kind of a mix of everything else. Like the really good Merfolk decks are probably the best aggressive decks because you can play 1 drops and really try to go 1 drop, 2 drop, 3 drop,
Hmm.
which other decks can't. Like Mistcloaked Herald has overperformed, I think. Slitherblade was like mocked a lot when it
Hmm.
was in the draft format, but it also overperformed based on what everyone thought. And I think Mistcloaked Herald is just a good. It's like a good card, surprisingly, but.
Hmm.
Uh, and so there are aggressive decks, but I don't think they're as oppressive as they were in the last set.
Yeah, so I want to finish up on Ascend here, and we're going to move on to those kind of decks in a second. So the last card we kind of mentioned, but we never really talked about was Dusk Charger. So
Yeah.
that card's a card that you specifically noted. I haven't been super impressed. Has it been impressing you? Is this something I need to be paying better attention to? What's up?
So my initial thoughts was this card was really bad. That it was just going to be a hill giant and
Hmm.
not great. But it's been better than I thought, and I think I would definitely give it another shot. So I saw multiple decks that had like 2 or 3 of them, and from the 6-0 drafters, and so it's definitely a card that they think is reasonable, if not good.
Hmm.
And a 5/5 body is actually really really strong in this format. So um, because the games grind out, size matters a lot more. Whereas in Ixalan, it didn't really matter what you played. You were just going to slap a One with the Wind on it and
Hmm.
then be good, or your Anointed Deacon was going to pump it up, and it didn't really matter what it was. But the size of your creatures definitely comes out matters more in this format, just
Hmm.
because you get into more creature combat. There's a lot of 4/4s and 2/4s, 3/3s, and so like a 5/5 is a big threat in this set.
Okay. I'm gonna have to give that a second look when we get back around to testing because I gotta get to the RPTQ eventually. That's gonna be a fun time. Can't wait for that. So we mentioned this. So let's move back into it. And this is the one toughness cards, the aggressive, the more for is it Mistbinder? Is that the card we're thinking of? The 1/1 that's
So
unblockable.
I think it's called the Miscloaked Herald is the one.
Mistcloaked Herald. Well, Mistcloaked
There
Herald
we go.
has overperformed. So I'm curious, is the fact that Slitherblade was able to get suited up and the format was really aggressive, and you get the anthems, are these cards only good because of the situation, or is this something that maybe has been historically underrated in Magic and is now starting to get
Uh,
more notice? What do you think about that?
I I don't think that 1/1 unblockable is always good. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
think people defaulting to it being bad is correct. But I do think that when a set comes out, you should look at what can make it good. So in this set, what makes it work is there's raid and there's merfolk synergies. And so when you combine those together, it makes that card overperform a lot. Like Deadeye Rig Hauler is a great example of occasionally you'll not have any good attacks except for your 1/1 unblockable, which will be able to get in, and then you can Deadeye Rig Hauler their creature.
Mm-hmm.
And so being able to trigger that raid really reliably is super nice. And then Jade Bearer, there's multiple Merfolk cards that put counters or pump other merfolk, and so being able to use that on your unblockable lets you transform it into real damage, which is definitely a big plus side. So.
Okay, very interesting. All right. So, what do you think about cards like Raptor Companion? Because we had some at the GP. It's a card from the last set they reprinted because they love Joshua Layden. What do you think about this card? Because it does just die to everything, but it attacks through everything too, which is it puts it in a really interesting spot in my mind.
So in my opinion, I think Raptor Companion got worse in this set. So I'm under the impression that it's pretty bad now. There's certain cards that like really, really punish it. So Dusk Legion Zealot is a perfect example where you do not want to be playing your Raptor Companion into their Dusk Legion Zealot. Like that is just asking to for punishment.
Mm-hmm.
I guess Raptor Companion it overperforms when you're trying to be defensive. So if you have a white-black deck that's trying to go for a send, go into the late game, win with Dust Chargers or the Sun-Crested Pterodon, then Raptor Companion actually does a good job of holding off attackers because it can trade up. It can trade for a 3-drop a lot of times.
Mm-hmm.
And then any other creature that you play can stop their 1/1s, and so you're not too afraid of that. But if you're trying to be an aggressive, like red-white deck or white, I guess red-white is the main aggro color that would want to be playing Raptor Companion, I think you're going to be pretty unhappy with it, and you'll want to try to get different 2-drops if you can.
Okay, so that's very interesting. I think I agree with all of that. That all kind of checks out for me. So when we're talking about like these aggressive 1-drop cards and maybe the format going longer, what do you think about dual shot in the format now that it has evolved?
So I never was main decking dual shot just
Mm-hmm.
because just going off of in past formats you don't really main deck dual shot. Like that's not a main deck card. It can be a good sideboard card, but I saw one of the 3-0 lists had 2 main deck dual shots. And he did have 1 Needletooth Raptor, but that was like the only notable Enrage card. So, that definitely.
Yeah, it's definitely
I know, right?
overperforming.
Yeah, it's definitely an upside to have a Needletooth Raptor, but that doesn't mean that dual shot main deck isn't good. And so, I was looking through it, and there's Raptor Companion, Goblin Trailblazer, Silver Guild Adept is an uncommon, but Mistcloaked Herald is a common that people are playing. Kitesail Corsair, I think almost Dusk Legion Zealot, tons of cards. Or Gilt Grove Stalker, there's a 2/1 for 2 in almost every color. I'm pretty sure. And if your 1-drop can trade, especially if you're on the draw, for a 2-drop, or sometimes get even 2 creatures, that's a pretty crazy value to be getting from a 1-mana spell. Mm-hmm. And then if you have an Enrage mechanic, then Dual Shot becomes, I think, just a good card that you want to be main decking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. So let's side note about Enrage, because we didn't put it on the episode. It seems like on our show notes, it seems like it's something we missed out on. The 3/2 with Enrage that shocks them, and the 2/2 that Lava Axe is anything, are the only Enrage cards I really like.
Yes, but I think they're both very good.
Yes, no. I think they're both good. I just don't like most of your other Enrage cards. I'm just not wanting to be about a lot of the time. From this set, from Rivals.
Yeah, you don't want to be working, but that's kind of how it was in regular Ixalan too. You would have to get a rare in order to really, really want to be triggering your Enrage.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that if you get a Needletooth Raptor, you want to be slam dunking it. I think it might be the best uncommon in the set. It might be better than the Chupacabra.
Whoa, Danny Cathro, you're telling me that Needletooth Raptor is better than Ravenous Chupacabra. Can you even say
I
Chupacabra?
so the reason why, like, there's so many cards that work well with it. Like, there's the Forerunner, which tutors it. Like, I've gotten that combo a ton, and that just feels like cheating. And like, Needle Tooth Raptor is crazy. Like, it doesn't like, you can get the trigger multiple times, and I don't know. Like, so every single dinosaur deck that I've seen do well has Needle Tooth Raptor in it. Like, it's just.
I mean, the card is great. I could believe that it is one of the best, but I think you have to work for it way more. With Ravenous Chupacabra, you just like put it in your deck and you just get the value. You play it, you kill their thing, you move on with your life. With this one, I'm having to work for it. I'm taking her out for dinner. I'm buying her drinks, getting her Subway sandwiches, and then I get a big payoff. But the Chupacabra is just boom. That dopamine hit, Danny. You can't take it from me.
It might be better. So like,
they're both good.
Close. Like,
No. I mean, it's worth debating. Once you talk about it, it makes sense, right? Because like we talk about the dual shot, right? Like you hit their Raptor companion,
Reckless Rage.
Reckless Rage. Yeah, that's a good one. Even just chump blocking. Like lots of times it trades and then hits something else. So
yeah, no, it's pretty crazy. But Ravenous Chupacabra, you get to play Recover, so you get that combo.
Oh, my heart.
Nice. Oh yeah, Recover is also overperformed. That card is great. I think if you are playing black, you want normally exactly one Recover.
Yeah,
and you're very happy with it.
I'm in a weird position where like I've only ever really played Tetsamok decks with Recover. So Recover is just like the best card ever. It's like, oh, they somehow beat your unbeatable card. I shall recover.
Get it back.
Yeah. I shall run it back, as the kids say. So yeah,
running it back with Tetsamok is definitely unnecessary but super fun.
Well, I think we've gone over all the main mechanics now, except for Raid. The only Raid card I'm super excited about, and I could be forgetting one, and excuse me if I am, is the Mana War. That one has really been great.
The Deadeye Ring Caller, I think is what it's called. Yeah, that card's great. It's really good. But I think that's like really the only raid card that matters too much in the set.
I will say the Black-Red Pirate Lord that incentivizes raiding, like the one that gets +2/+0 on your pirate's attack, that thing hits so hard. You had the Black-Red one. It hits so hard, so quick.
Yeah. No, there's like definitely some powerful. That card is like super nuts. But like, there's a lot of removal in this set, which is nice. Like, I think like Bombard at common and Impale at common, and
Moment of Craving is like nothing.
Yeah. Oh, Moment of Craving is great. Luminous Bonds is good. Like, I just think Hunt the Weak. Like, I think every color got a very reasonable common removal spell, and I think that does a lot for the set, like to make it slower and more interactive, which I think it's good. I think it makes it for more fun games of Magic. So
that makes sense to me.
There was one other random common that I liked is the Sun-Crested Pterodon. I saw like an interview with Andrea Mengucci, and I guess his team just said that the card overperforms like crazy, and they were like splashing for it.
I'm sorry, what card is that?
So it's 4 and a white for a dinosaur. It's a 2/5 flyer.
Oh, that thing's great.
Control another dinosaur. It has vigilance.
It's amazing.
It's just good. Like, it's one of the better win conditions, I think. It's like really hard to kill. It blocks while it attacks. Like, vigilance is really good on a flyer.
There's other big flyers too, so it just never dies.
Yeah. There's a lot of 3/2s also. 2 toughness flyers, which it laughs at.
Yeah.
So.
It laughs in their general direction.
So and 2 of them, they combo well together.
Yeah, because then you're just like sending the air patrol. Boom, boom, boom.
Oh yeah.
All right. Well, let's move on to the colors. So we wanted to talk about how deep black and white is, and just those are insane. Like the Vampires deck is really good. Black has Impale, a common, which is a crazy card. It's got some good combat tricks with like Moment of Triumph. You have Moment of Craving for like, and it can be a combat trick and a removal spell, which is, I mean, sometimes combat tricks are removal spells, but you understand what I'm saying. Very versatile cards. And the card quality is really, really good compared to a lot of the other cards, and a lot of them synergize together too. So what do you think about that one, Danny?
Yeah, I think it's mostly just depth. So especially if you're at like at a PBTQ and you're in a top 8 draft, or if you're at a GP draft or a Pro Tour draft, like the people that you're playing against are going to be pretty competent, and you're going to be like fighting for the good cards a lot of times. And so being in colors where most of the commons are good is definitely a place where I want to be. Like I was looking at white, for example, and the only white common that I would be like really unhappy to main deck is there's one, and it's the cleansing gray. But everything else is like reasonable. Like obviously I'm not like super happy about all of them, but they're like totally fine playable cards.
Yeah, they're like it's like your 23rd card, and someone's like, okay, I get it.
Sure, like Raptor Companion's probably like the worst, or Divine Verdict, or Sun Sentinel, but like they're all reasonable, and it's the same is almost true with black. There's a couple bad black commons, but besides that, there's a lot of just reasonable playable cards.
Mm-hmm. They also have some of the best bombers too, which I'm sorry to interrupt, but yeah, we'll get more to that in a second.
I think that's probably one of the biggest strengths of black is like the uncommons are also really good. Like Ravenous Chupacabra, Golden Demise has been completely insane.
Yeah,
so good.
It is very, very good.
Yeah, that card's ridiculous.
Yeah, and then you have, I think you have the two best rares in the set in those colors, in Profane Procession and Tetsamok. Which is
and Trapjaw Tyrant,
and Trapjaw Tyrant. Like, yeah, all these cards.
Those are mythics, but yeah. But I think like just the depth at common is kind of what makes those really powerful, deep colors where you can be like next to someone drafting white and be in white and still come out with playable deck. Whereas if you're next to someone drafting dinos and you're in dinos, you're probably going to be in a rough spot.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, I agree with that. So let's talk about blue. Mm-hmm. It's pretty good. It seems like it's going everywhere.
So I've liked blue a lot. Mm-hmm. I think that it's most like I think the cards are a little less powerful than black and white, but I think it's pretty similar. Whereas like most of the commons are pretty playable and they're kind of tricky, and I like playing with tricky limited cards. Like Crashing Tide's a really fun card. Mm-hmm. I think Spirewinder is overperformed. What else? It has like reasonable removal. Water Knot. Sailor of Means is a really good card in the set. And then Secrets of the Golden City is also sweet. Like I like being able to have a common win condition, kind of like the 2/5 flyer. Like you can play that 2/5 flyer and just kind of win a game just by stalling the ground, winning with your 2/5. The same thing can happen with Secrets of the Golden City. You just draw in the middle of the game a 3-mana draw 3, and then game is practically over as long as you drew some gas, right?
Yeah. And if you didn't, you were going to lose the game anyways. So you got a little closer and have a chance now. So
exactly.
I agree with that. I think blue is good, and I'm in a weird spot where I haven't played a whole lot of blue. It just hasn't been open, and I haven't played with it at events. But I do like it, and it seemed good. But let's talk about green and red, because they are trying to go together in theory, and yet they divert. They're just not on the same wavelength. What's going on, Danny? What do you think about this?
So I think green and red struggle from when your commons don't pair well together. So half of the commons will be good in your deck, but the other half won't. So with red, you have some dinosaur cards, and then you have some pirate cards. Mm-hmm. And they'll be very, very good in that deck, but the other commons won't be good. So like Buccaneer's Bravado is a great example, where that card is great. If you're in like blue-red pirates, that card's insane. But if you're in like green-red dinosaurs, it's not really what you're looking for. Like you kind of want, like, you don't want a combat trick that badly because you're going to be playing big creatures anyway that can win the game. Whereas if you're in an aggressive deck, then the double strike is going to be a way for you to punch through the last points of damage. And so if you're in green-red dinosaurs and then you just get past a pack that is open for red, but it just has Buccaneer's Bravado and maybe some other random common that isn't in your deck, then it's going to feel bad. Whereas in white or black, that's not as likely to happen. Like the cards are just kind of good in all of the colors. Yeah, like all the decks that have those colors. And the same with green. You have Merfolk cards, which really want to be combined with as many Merfolks as possible. And then you have like dinosaur cards, right? And so I think that's kind of the struggle of those colors, and you have to make sure that they're definitely very open so that when they do open up Goblin Trailblazer, like you get past it and that you get to play your aggressive blue-red pirate deck. But I'm not saying that the colors aren't strong. Like I actually think this set is pretty balanced, where Like you can 3-0 with every color. Like there's no unplayable color at all for sure. But I do think that those two colors are a little weaker just because of that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. It's very hard to like commit to green or red early because of what we talked about with the diverging paths and like things have to be open and kind of go your way. With like when you're playing black white, it's like, well, I got removal and stuff, and I can go the distance.
You can fall into black white super easy. Like you just kind of take a removal spell, take a creature, take a removal spell, and you're like, oh look, I have some black and white cards, and then you'll get some late pick playable commons, and you're like, okay, yeah, like I have a reasonable black white deck going on. Whereas trying to get into Merfolk is you first pick a generically good blue or green card, and then someone passes you a lord, and you just have to kind of cross your fingers and hope that it wasn't a fluke and it's actually going to be open, right? And so there's definitely like a higher risk to drafting those archetypes, I think.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. So let's talk about how the commons. We talked a lot about how we have these common win conditions, and we're really like making the commons work for us and work towards the win. So we talked about like the 2/5 flyer, the super divination, the impale. There's just a lot of really good commons that can make work for you. Is this one of the things you're looking at in the format? Like you're able to pick commons a little bit earlier than you normally would be okay with?
I mean, so this is kind of like something that I do in a lot of formats is I try to look and see. So in any limited format, I always want to know how my deck is going to win. Like I like to try to envision how the games are going to play out, and if both of our decks function, how am I going to get a leg up? And so like the Pterodon Knight is kind of like an example of that, where both in black white you're both going to play a bunch of dudes and you're going to stall out the ground, and then you have a 2/5 flyer that attacks through all of their flyers, and it's the biggest flyer, and you're going to win with that. Or in the blue, the secret of the Golden City is that I'm going to kind of trade 1-for-1, maybe play a bunch of removal spells, and then I have this draw 3 that I'm going to win off the back of that, just trading and that card. And so in this set, I think there's like a few ways that you can make those commons work, like put in more work or overperform. That I had written down. So the first one, I think that if you have an aggressive deck, you can make cards that would be bad a lot better. So in Merfolk, the Mistcloaked Herald gets a lot better if you have a low curve aggressive Merfolk deck, right? Because then the early chip damage matters a lot. Or if you have a black-red Pirates deck, there's the
Bravado. Are you talking about?
Well, Bravado is a great example, and also Grasping Scoundrel is like a card that you don't always want, but it's the black 1/1 pirate, but when it's attacking, it's a 2/1.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so like if you can make that card into a good card in your deck, then you're getting more out of the draft than the people around you, right? Like that's a card that no one's gonna want, but if you can build your deck in such a way that you're like slamming that on the table because you're happy about it, then you're gonna have a huge leg up.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And then some of the ways that they've built that into the set is with Ascend. Like Ascend as a mechanic is just a way to like get more incremental value, and I think Ascend is probably it's one of the more fun mechanics that they've come out with in the past couple years that I've really liked for Limited. Like, I think it's interesting. It was hard to evaluate. I think it plays really nicely. I don't know, like, have you been, as you've been playing it, like, what has been your thoughts on
Ascend?
Like, yeah, on Ascend, I guess.
So, one thing I like about Ascend is when games stall out and go long, right, it, like, kind of turns on cards. So, incentivizes the player to play a certain style of game, right? When you put that 03 that we talked about, I don't remember its name, but the one that becomes
Stubborn Sentry.
When you put the Stubborn Sentry in your deck, you're making this plan to go the game longer and interact with your opponent and do these things. And if you're going to play a white deck that doesn't do that, you can, but you can play one where your goal is to block up the ground a little bit, use some removal spells, and then eventually turn the corner. And I like that. And it gives you this game plan, this goal that you want to work towards this thing. And it gives your opponent this mini side objective where it's like, maybe I need to attack now to force trades so that thing doesn't turn on, or I need to use this removal spell here, or, just it makes the game more dynamic and gives you more decisions, which I really like. It's funny because one of the favorite limited mechanics that I've had in a long time is in this set, but it's not the City's Blessing. I love Explore. So
Explore is also sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I don't think City's Blessing is bad. I just think So side rant. I think cycling
Uh-huh.
is a little overrated, and people really want it to be an evergreen mechanic. And I
Uh-huh.
think one of the biggest problem with cycling is it makes all the cards playable, right? And we kind of
Correct.
saw this in some things where it's like you can just play like enchantment / artifact removal if your deck's not great because you need the cycling to get towards something later, and sometimes you
Mm.
get people, right? And that's
Yep.
like not super cool. And then you're like, I'm gonna play this 6/4 desert guy because if I draw him late game, it's great. And if not, no, I just cycle it away. If I manage to, I cycle it away. And it kind of, I don't know. I don't think it's the most exciting in depth gameplay, and
Mm-hmm.
I think it makes it really hard to design cards. So I'm glad it's not evergreen. I'm glad Mara said it's probably never going to be evergreen. I think Explore does the same kind of thing of fixing Mana Screw, and for limited in the same way, right? Where like you play an Explore card, you hit a land, then boom, right? You're working towards getting your lands and not drawing too many lands, right? Because if you play that card and you drew a land and you draw another land for turn, it's like, well, if I think about it, I was going to draw 2 lands, so now I sped up the process. And then when you
Yeah.
flip a creature, you get to make an interesting decision, or a non-land card, I should say, and then you make your choice. And I think that's really interesting. So I really love Explore. I've been really high on it since I first saw it, and I think it unfortunately didn't get to shine as much as it could have in other formats because of the way things have played out. But it sounds like
Mm-hmm.
Rivals is really showing off how good it can be at times.
Yeah, I think the power level on it is like a little too low for constructed,
Yeah,
but in limited, I do agree that it plays out really nicely.
yeah,
Especially the good ones, like the 3 mana 2/2 from like Shauna's Wayfinder, like that's just good value. Unfortunately, Ixalan wasn't really about that,
yeah,
and
exactly.
so I definitely see what you mean by like this set definitely makes it like you can feel how good Explore is, and like well, because I think it goes really well with Ascend, right?
Hmm.
When it's helping you make your land drops, helping you filter your cards, like that's the type of game where you're gonna want to be playing like the Ascend strategy.
Yep, and it
Um,
helps with the not getting the mana. Everyone complains they don't draw enough lands. It's
uh,
like, well, you should just bend the card when you played your Merfolk Branchwalker. Like, you didn't have
yeah,
lands. Don't be
yeah,
greedy. I
yeah,
gave you a chance.
uh-huh,
So,
yeah.
I don't know. I like it. It's awesome. I had it in my Deadeye tracker, my sideboard for standard today. It was awesome. I won so
That
many
card's
games.
surprisingly good. Like you bring it against Godfarer's Gift, and I'm like, wait,
Hmm.
what?
Yeah.
Oh, I can't beat that card.
I've
Never
brought in
mind.
against Godfarer's Gift, Blue Black Reanimator, opposing control mirrors that I played. I even brought in against a Black Red aggro deck because I just had to cut cards and they had a bunch of like Scrap Heap
Oh,
Scroungers and Kenras. And I was just like, get out of here,
sure.
get out of here, draw some
Like,
lands, let's do it. So yeah, I really like that. I really like Explore. I'm probably too high on it. I have foiled J-Light Rangers. It's the best. I love it.
yeah.
So let's kind of wrap up this conversation and hit some random highlighted points here. So we wrote down some stuff we want to talk about. They're kind of all over the place, and we've mentioned them a little bit, but I
Uh,
think there's one that we didn't really talk about that we should, and that's staying open.
Yeah, so as I was reviewing the 6.0 drafters, which is kind of the basis for a lot of these discussion points that I came up with,
Hmm.
one thing that I noticed is I don't think any of them drafted the same color combination. Or if they did, it was like very different decks. So it definitely shows that that they're very rewarded for staying open. Like none of them, it was like every deck was represented. There were Merfolk decks, Dinosaur decks, White Black was the most prevalent probably. There were aggressive pirate decks, like 3-color Grixis pirates, and then each person would draft different archetypes, and each of the 6.0 players had multiple archetypes, and I just think that's the sign of a good set, where it's not necessarily the archetype that's going to carry you, but it's about in the draft having a game plan, drafting a cohesive deck that is going to be able to have good strategies against other things that you're going to face. And I think that just kind of shows that I think this set is going to be really good and really fun to play for a while
Hmm.
because there isn't an overpowered strategy and there is a lot of interaction, a lot of important decisions that you can be making. So,
Yeah, and some of the colors are deep, and when things are open, you can
mhm.
easily go pretty deep on them. So I agree 100% with what you're saying there. So
Yeah,
I'm gonna ask you this question.
I'm ready.
All right, it's a lame question. So
Okay,
you're liking Rivals.
I am.
You're,
Sweet.
you're loving it. Do you think it's
Hmm.
a bomb-centric format? Because I've heard that thrown around a little bit. And this we was a common set
Uh,
review show today, but we've been talking about a lot of random stuff. I just want to ask
yeah,
because
yeah.
there are some cards
Uh,
you just really can't beat.
so there's like the fact that I think you can legitimately win with commons and uncommons is like I think there's enough power in the commons and uncommons
Mm-hmm.
that it's not bomb. Like I don't think
Bomb
it's
driven.
bomb driven. Like there's some oppressive cards for sure. Like Profane Procession is dumb. Like
Yeah.
really, really stupid. And Tetsamok is really, really dumb. And them being just rares is kind of obnoxious.
That's a nice way to say it.
Yeah, but I think that overall the games aren't going to play out like that. And even with a couple powerful rares that like especially like a lot of the rares aren't actually that insane. Like Atali, like that's the type of rare I'm totally fine with. Like it's really strong and it can run away with the game, but you can just impale it. Like you can Luminous Bonds it, and then the problem's over, right? Like you don't have to worry about it. Like Tetsamok is a different story because it's kind of
It plays on a really weird axis.
yeah, it's really really interesting.
I think
But
it's the first of its kind, really. Like a card that does what it does. Like I can't think of a card like it. Can you?
oh no, it's like it's very unique. For sure. Like, I think it's an interesting design, actually. But even then, there's, like, some pretty good sideboard cards for it. Like, Dark Inquiry is actually really sweet against Tetsamok.
Yeah, it's really good.
Just because, like, they're going to want to... In general, they'll spend a turn kind of showing the Tetsamok, and then you can take it away. Which is kind of sweet. But I don't think so. I think there's a lot of strategies, and there's enough aggressive strategies that you can get underneath a lot of the bombs. Like, Profane Procession, I've lost a game where I cast it. Like, I cast Profane Procession, cast a 4-drop, exiled something, and then I died. I was like, oh, wow, that's surprising. But, you definitely can lose even when you have those bombs.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, that's interesting. Well, my hot take is Magic players love to complain about stuff when there's always rares that are going to be really good because they're pushing for constructed, and that's just part of life unlimited. So get over it. Hot take.
Yeah. Like, and it's nothing like some other sets. Like, there's been sets in the past which are a lot more bomb-centric.
I imagine the Titans were also really annoying to play against.
Yeah. Imagine, like, a Grave Titan. What in the world? Yeah,
Inferno.
Like, yeah. All of those are just stupid.
Even Primeval, it's like, oh, I just will never draw lands again. Like, it's like, I got a 6/6 or 6 Trampler. That's good enough, and I just, like, always draw gas. Okay. It's the worst one in Limited somehow. Whatever.
And there's like counter spells. Like if you're blue, like there's several counter spells. So yeah, I definitely think it's good. Like you'll lose every once in a while, but it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, I agree. I was just curious. I have to get your hot take while we're here.
The hot.
Yep. But if you want to get a hot take, you can go over to the Mana Base. They have lots of up and coming content creators, us, Nikachu, people like that, and you can go read their content, get their opinion, then pick up some packs, and go down to your local pub and draft with your friends. That's apparently things people do. We don't drink, so I guess we don't do that. But lots of other people apparently draft and drink, and I'm all for it.
I mean, I think I would like to draft with people that are drinking. Because then I would probably do better than them. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe people are like very high functioning drafters when they're drinking. That's a possibility too.
Well, they're just super gutsy. They're like, yeah, you don't have it. And they just go for it all the time.
Oh, no bluffing.
Yeah, you can't bluff anyone. It's just a game of Hearthstone. You're just jamming cards at each other and figuring it out. So
everyone F6s.
Yep.
Yeah, F6.
Yep, definitely. So we're going to give a shout out to them and Game Grid for sponsoring the show. Game Grid, a great store in Utah to go play Magic. See Spencer, see Danny. It's a great time. Go do it. Enjoy your life. So we want to thank them, and we want to give a shout out to the Patreon. If you like Limited Time Only and want to help out, you don't have to, but if you feel free to, just go to Limited Time Only Patreon. I think Spencer has updated the rewards and everything. I'm not 100%. So I joked at the beginning of the show, I'm your host. I'm not actually your normal host. Spencer's just been so sick that I thought it'd be funny to make the joke that I am the host now.
I think all three of us have been super sick. I was like not functional for a couple days.
Yeah, well, Spencer's been sick literally all of January.
That's kind of true.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the entire month.
But yeah, I was
that
pretty
time
much
of year
this
though
week.
definitely is like it's sick season, so let me get a pass.
It's a flu epidemic right now, Danny. It's an
I've
epidemic.
heard young people have been getting the flu and not recovering. My parents were very worried when I got the flu. So
yeah,
everyone take care of yourself.
Yeah, in real life, my job, I interact with children a lot and teens, and one parent was talking to me, and they were saying how half of the school was out sick the other day, and they didn't close school. And so she just didn't send her son to school. She's like, I'm not sending my son to school, and half the kids are sick. So
that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's like really bad.
Yeah, that is a little insane. So
Yeah.
just want to touch on that. Stay safe. Wash your hands there. And when you're washing your hands and you have a sweet draft pick, don't think about just yourself. Send us hashtag what's the pick. If you tweet it, Danny will pick it. I don't think we have any new what's the picks. I could be wrong. It's been such a long time. So just a reminder, we're going to start doing them again next week. But with what's the pick, you take a picture of your draft. You can screenshot on Modo, real life. You can just show us like the 2 real cards that matter too. Just whatever you want to do. And Danny and Spencer, if he's here, or me, will pick the card and talk about it, because it's really fun to do draft pick. That's one of the best part about drafting is picking. It's why LR does Crack a Pack. You know, it's awesome. It's a great thing. So thank you everyone for watching. And if you want to reach out to Danny, you can get him at DJ Cathro on Twitter and Facebook, Danny Cathro. You can message him. Maybe one day he'll get someone to have him sign a card. He wants it. He was talking about it a lot at the GP.
Don't rub it in. It'll happen one day.
Yeah.
I have to do something notable. All right, I'm ready.
Dude, you top 16 a Pro Tour with zombies.
Yeah, I know, but none of those cards are playable anymore. I need to do it. Oh, Sneak and Show. I need to go to more Legacy tournaments. But I wasn't even on camera ever, so that doesn't count.
Prized Amalgam is playable in Dredge.
Okay, I need to get some Dredge aficionados.
Yeah. Michael Hinderhocker. There
Genius.
you go.
Michael.
Yeah.
Or I'll just go for the pity signature. That's the one. That's
Yeah. Well, I'm never gonna ask you for one just to keep it in. Even though I could, I guess.
You can't ruin it.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't want to take your first time like that. That'd be terrible. If you want to tweet at me, you can tweet at Mason Clark. I know if you're watching the video podcast, it says a different one. It has been changed. I just keep forgetting to change it until we get to right this moment of the show, and I say it and I forget. So I'm gonna go take care of that as soon as this is done. But thank you everyone for watching, and we will see you amigos next time.
Have a good one.